The man who liberated Jerusalem, Salahuddin. Salah ad-Din Yusuf ibn Ayyub, or better known as Salahuddin, was born in Tikrit in 1137, which is now a city in modern-day Iraq. He was from the Kurdish Rawadiya tribe. However, the Ayyub family originate from the ancient city of Divin in modern-day Armenia. The Ayyub family has had a rich history of warriors, such as Salahuddin's father, Najm ad-Din, who served for the Seljuk Atabeg in 1132, Imad al-Din Zengi. He participated in a battle against the Seljuk Sultan near Tikrit and saved Zengi's life when he assisted his retreat across Tigris. There is not much on Salahuddin's youth. However, a legend that has been circulating pertaining to Salahuddin's youth is that his father, Najm al-Din, foresaw that he was going to be the liberator of Jerusalem. The story goes that one day, as a young boy, he was playing with other children his age. However, his father grabbed him, stating, "I did not marry your mother for you to play, but rather to reclaim Al-Aqsa." Another time, when Salahuddin fell to the ground, he did not cry, and his father asked why not. Salahuddin then responded, "It is not fitting for the conqueror of Al-Aqsa to cry." Meanwhile, at the same time, his uncle Shirkuh entered the services of Zengi's son Nur al-Din. In 1140, his father Najm al-Din was appointed governor of Baalbek. It was during this time that Salahuddin acquired the skills of horsemanship, war, politics, and management. Salahuddin spent some time in Damascus after Zengi occupied it in 1154. Furthermore, Salahuddin learnt to memorize the Quran, with some sources suggesting that he was even a Hafiz. Furthermore, many Islamic scholars from the Muslim world were brought to Damascus. As a result, he was often lectured by Abdullah ibn Abi Asrun in the Umayyad Mosque. Abi Asrun was a highly respected scholar who later became a Qadi. Added, it is noted that Salahuddin was part of Nur al-Din's police force, in which they cleaned Damascus from many criminals. Prior to Salahuddin's arrival to Egypt, the Fatimid Caliphate, the empire that ruled Egypt and surrounding regions, was in a state of visible decline. There were various epidemics and periods of starvation, as well as various assassination attempts on the viziers and the caliphs of the empire. Furthermore, there were rebellions and internal struggles between the various ethnic groups that inhabited the caliphate, such as the Turkish, Sudanese, Moroccans, and Mamluks. However, stability was somewhat achieved, with Talha ibn Ruzuq acceding to the position of vizier in 1154, though chaos again broke out when he was assassinated in 1161 and his son Ruzuq ibn Tali replaced him. Soon after, Shawir al-Sadi revolted against his vizierate by killing him and then becoming the new vizier. Though Shawir al-Sadi fell into corruption, in which Durgam and the caliph at the time, Al-Adid, rebelled against the new vizier, forcing him to flee in exile, in which he left for Damascus, requesting assistance from Nur ad-Din Mahmud Zengi. This led him to send in Shirkuh alongside Salahuddin. They defeated Durgam and reinstated Shawir as the vizier. However, he betrayed them by siding with the Christian king of Jerusalem, Al-Malik, leading to Salahuddin and Shirkuh fighting the Egyptians and the Crusaders. This eventually led to a truce between them, in which the agreement was for the withdrawal of both sides from Egypt. In 1166, Shirkuh, alongside Salahuddin, began an expedition of Egypt, in which they conquered Alexandria without any resistance, in which Salahuddin subsequently became the governor of the city. However, the Crusaders and the Byzantines attacked the city upon Shirkuh leaving, though Salahuddin was able to resist their advances, forcing them to sign a treaty that forced them to withdraw their troops from Egypt. The Crusaders again tried to capture Egypt in 1169. Sensing an opportunity to occupy the region, Nur ad-Din sent Shirkuh and Salahuddin to help Shawir. This led to the Crusader army withdrawing from Egypt. Meanwhile, Shirkuh was welcomed by the locals. Upon Shawir being assassinated, he was subsequently appointed as the vizier, though Shirkuh died in the same year, causing Al-Adid to appoint Salahuddin as the vizier of the Fatimid Caliphate. During his time as vizier, there was many conspiracies to oust Salahuddin from his position. The first being during his time as vizier, the plot of Najjar occurred, in which Najjar, an influential eunuch of the Fatimid palace, sided with the Franks. However, he was defeated by Salahuddin in 1169. In the same year, the Franks attacked Alexandria and upon their landing, they killed Muslims and sank all the ships. This prompted Salahuddin to raise an army to eradicate Crusader presence within Alexandria. Despite possessing a high position within the Shia-based Fatimid Caliphate, Salahuddin desired for the return of Sunni rule. Firstly, he established the Nasiriyya and Kamiliyya school so that people will follow the sect. He also banned a part of the Shia Adhan that was not part of the Sunnah. And upon Al-Aldid becoming ill in 1171, he began the process of turning the empire Sunni. Firstly, he altered the Friday sermons from being that in the name of the Fatimid Caliph to that of the Abbasid Caliph. Soon after, Al-Aldid passed away. Therefore, Salahuddin took advantage of this power vacuum, effectively taking control of the country. Upon seizing power, he formally switched Egypt's alliance to the Baghdad-based Abbasid Caliphate, which adhered to Sunni Islam. This essentially established the Ayyubid Empire, with Salahuddin officially becoming the Sultan. He began his expansion in the following year, in 1172, when his older brother, Shamsi al-Dawa Turan Shah, invaded Nubia and wreaked havoc throughout the land. Furthermore, in the same year, in 1172, Salahuddin sent Sharif al-Din to begin an expansion westwards in North Africa, in which he invaded the historical lands of Cyrenaica, in which Barsa and Tripoli became part of the Ayyubid territory. After completing the conquest of Cyrenaica and the eastern Libyan oases, Karakush made his way to south of Zawila, the capital of Fezzan. At this time, Zawila was ruled by an Ibadi Berber dynasty known as the Banu al-Khattab. It was an immensely wealthy city due to its key position along the trans-Saharan trade routes, and by 1177, the Ayyubid forces had reached as far away as Gadmis, which is next to the modern-day Algerian-Libyan border. But expansions continued, and by 1181, the Ayyubid dynasty had entered into the heartland of Tunisia, in which Karakush and his men succeeded in capturing the most important citadel, Matmata. However, it is up to scholarly debate whether the territories of the Barsa were under the Ayyubid Sultanate or simply territories conquered by Karakush. This is because many recognize the conquest as personal ambitions by Karakush, though historical accounts do acknowledge that the Friday sermons were in the name of Salahuddin. Meanwhile, in the early 1170s in Egypt, Salahuddin again changed the Friday sermons to that in the name of Nur al-Din Zengi until his death in 1174. Furthermore, some historians state that he even minted coins in his name. During Salahuddin's time, there were other conspiracies, such as one that came about in 1173, when Imara al-Yamani gathered many supporters hoping to regain Fatimid rule. Though Salahuddin was able to quell the situation down by arresting everyone involved. The most notable one was Kanz al-Dawla, the ruler of Aswan in Egypt, in which he intended to reinstate the Fatimid Caliph in 1174. However, Salahuddin eradicated his threat. In 1174, Salahuddin began the expansion of the empire outside of North Africa, in which he sent his brother Turan Shah to conquer the Hejaz and neighboring Yemen. At the time, there was civil strife. The advent of the Ayyubids marked the beginning of a period of renewed prosperity in the city, with the improvement of its commercial infrastructure, the establishment of new institutions, and the minting of its own coins. Though it was noted by historians such as Ibn Athir that the reason for the invasion of Yemen was to have a place in which Salahuddin could reside in if he was to be overthrown. Though upon Nur al-Din's death in 1174, his 11-year-old son As-Salih came to power, though there was a succession crisis as his advisors attempted to usurp the throne, such as the fact that Sayyid ad-Din had seized the city of Al-Jazeera. Salahuddin received many invitations from commanders, religious leaders and Muslim thinkers asking him to come to Syria to resolve the situation. Imad al-Din al-Asfahani wrote informing him of the situation in Al-Sham, the danger that this posed to the Muslim nation, and urging him to intervene to prevent the country being fragmented by the power struggle. As a result, Salahuddin began his conquest of Syria, with the city of Damascus being the first targeted in late 1174. Though he told As-Salih that he didn't come to invade, but rather to unite the Ummah. He then appointed his brother Saif ad-Din Tuktakin as governor. As a result, he also took control of Homs and Hama. After his victory, Salahuddin proclaimed himself king and suppressed the name of As-Salih Ismail al-Malik, Nur al-Din's adolescent son, in the Friday prayers and Islamic coinage, replacing it with his own name. Salahuddin moved north towards Aleppo besieging the city on the 30th of December after Gumash Tigin refused to abdicate the throne. As a result, he requested Rashid ad-Din Sinan, chief Dey of the Order of the Assassins in Syria, to assassinate his camp, in which he entered the Salahuddin's military camp. However, he was detected and attacked. He was also attacked by the assassins after he besieged the fortress of Azaz. As Salahuddin was resting in one of the captain's tents, an assassin rushed towards him and struck him in the head with a knife. The camp of his head armor was not penetrated, and he managed to grip the assassin's head, the dagger only slashing his gambeson, and the assailant was soon killed. Salahuddin decided to eradicate the threat of the assassins once and for all. As a result, he laid camp in the city of Maysef in 1175. However, the story goes that Salahuddin awoke to find a figure leaving the tent. He saw that the lamps were displaced, and beside his bed lay the hot scones of shape peculiar to the assassins, with a note at the top pinned by a poisoned dagger. The note threatened that he would be killed if he did not withdraw from his assault. Salahuddin subsequently gave a loud cry, exclaiming that Sinan himself was the figure that had left the tent. As a result, he failed to capture Aleppo, though he continued in his attempts to capture the ancient city, and he finally succeeded in 1182, fully being incorporated into the Ayyubid Empire. This led to the Abbasid Caliph Al-Mustadi graciously welcoming Salahuddin's assumption to power and gave him the title of Sultan of Egypt and Syria. Defeating the Crusaders and liberating Jerusalem was the main objective for Salahuddin. Hence, according to Christian sources, Salahuddin sent an army of 26,000 men to southern Palestine in 1177. After hearing that most of the kingdom of Jerusalem's soldiers were besieging Harem, Syria, west of Aleppo, and suddenly attacked by the Templars under Baldwin IV of Jerusalem near Ramla, the Ayyubid army was defeated at the Battle of Montigasad, with the majority of its troops being killed, and in the following year, in 1178, he was camped under the walls of Homs. This led to a number of skirmishes between his forces, commanded by Farrukh Shah and the Crusaders. And in 1179, Salahuddin invaded the Crusader Principality of Galil, in which he defeated Baldwin at the Battle of Marj Ayun. The Crusaders would attack the Muslims, which would provoke responses by Salahuddin. Reynaud of Chatillon in particular harassed Muslim trading and pilgrimage routes. With a fleet on the Red Sea, a water route Salahuddin needed to keep open. Reynaud even threatened to attack the holy cities of Mecca and Medina. And by 1183, the Ayyubid forces attacked the city of Bisan. However, when they arrived there, it was empty. Salahuddin continued and besieged Karak on two separate occasions, but both remained unsuccessful. In the aftermath of this, there was relative peace amongst the Crusaders, with some historians suggesting that Salahuddin and Reynaud signed a peace treaty in that time period. However, caravans of Hajj pilgrims were looted during the winter of 1186 to 1187, and it is noted that Salahuddin's sister and her son were on board on one of these caravans, though they came out unscathed. This prompted Salahuddin vowing to personally kill Reynaud for breaking the truce. Beginning in late May 1187, Salahuddin assembled the biggest army he ever commanded for the Golan Heights. Around 40,000 men, including about 12,000 regular cavalry. The opposing Crusader army amassed at La Safori, a well-watered and fortified position which had previously served as a mustering point in the event of Muslim intrusions from the east. On this occasion, the Crusader force consisted of around 18,000 to 20,000 men, including 1,200 knights from Jerusalem and Tripoli, and 50 from Antioch, under the leadership of Guy Lusignan, Raymond of Tripoli, and Reynaud. On the 2nd of July, Salahuddin personally led an assault on Raymond's fortresses of Tiberis, while the main Muslim army remained at Kafr Sabt. This led to Guy moving his army east the next day, which was what Salahuddin wanted. This brought about the Battle of Hattin, in which on their way towards Tiberias, the Muslims attacked the Crusader army with arrows. However, Guy and Raymond agreed to change the course of the march and veer to the left in the direction of the springs of Kafr Hattin, though the Ayyubid forces positioned themselves between the Frankish army and the water, so that the Franks were forced to pitch camp overnight on the arid plateau near the village of Meskaneh. According to Ibn al-Afir, the Franks were despondent, tormented by thirst, while Salahuddin's army were jubilant in anticipation of their victory. And on the 4th of July, the Crusaders were blinded by smoke from the fires set by Salahuddin's forces, as well as coming under fire from Muslim archers. The Crusaders were demoralized, thirsty, and wounded, and they had tried to change direction, but were subsequently blocked by Salahuddin. Many had deserted, leading to the surrender of the Christian forces. It is also noted that an English Christian by the name of Robert of St. Albans, who had previously fought for the Crusaders, switched allegiances to join the Muslims, converting to Islam in the process. On the 8th of July, the Crusader stronghold of Acre was captured by Salahuddin, while his forces seized Nazareth and Safuria. Other brigades took Haifa, Caesarea, Sebastia, and Nablus, while Al-Adil conquered Mirabel and Jaffa. And on the 26th of July, Salahuddin returned to the coast and received the surrender of Sarepta, Sidon, Beirut, and Jabla. In August, the Ayyubids conquered Ramla, Darum, Gaza, Beit Jibrin, and Latrun, and later on Ascalon was taken on the 4th of September. The last remaining Crusader stronghold was the holy city of Jerusalem, in which Salahuddin began the siege on the 20th of September 1187 with a 20,000 strong army. Initially he offered a peaceful annexation with no bloodshed, but this was refused. Therefore he began the conquest of the city, and subsequently 2 weeks later, on the 2nd of October, it was incorporated into the Ayyubid Empire. Salahuddin gave generous terms to the Christians, in which he allowed Orthodox and Eastern Christian pilgrims to visit the holy sites freely. Furthermore, he proposed a fee of 100,000 dinars to free all the 20,000 crusaders who were unable to pay the ransom. Balian of Ibelian complained that the Christian authorities could never raise such a sum. He proposed that 7,000 of them would be freed for a sum of 30,000 dinars, in which Salahuddin agreed. The native Christians were allowed to remain in the city, while those of Crusader origin were allowed to leave Jerusalem for other lands, along with their goods, through a safe passage via Akko by paying a ransom of 10 dinars. Despite some advisors telling him to destroy Christianity's most holiest site, the Holy Sepulchre Church, Salahuddin refused and reopened it after 3 days, in which he gave the keys to the Judeh al-Husseini family, in which their descendants still have the keys to the church to this day. As a result of Salahuddin capturing Jerusalem, a third crusade began in 1189, in which Richard the Lionheart set up the Salahuddin tithing to fund the next war. The Crusaders were unable to take Jerusalem, however they did capture cities such as Asruf and Jaffa, in which Richard and Salahuddin agreed on a truce in 1192, in which the Ayyubids recognized Crusader control of the Palestinian coast from Tyre to Jaffa. The Christians would be allowed to travel as unarmed pilgrims to Jerusalem, and Salahuddin's kingdom would be at peace with the Crusader states for the following 3 years. However, Salahuddin shortly died from a fever in 1193. Today he is revered throughout the globe, as in the Christian world he was an example of a just and fair ruler that gave the Crusaders favourable terms. Meanwhile, the Muslims agree on the above, as well as being the liberator of the third holiest site in all of Islam. However, what do you guys think? Was Salahuddin one of the most just rulers of all time?